Jeff's Superscript is brought to you by Black Cat Comics and Collectibles, in my opinion, the best comic shop and clubhouse on the internet. Follow them at Black Cat Burbank on Instagram and join their claim sales on Tuesdays for new books and Fridays for back issues. And don't forget to ask about joining their Stray Cats Club for special perks.
Hi, I'm Jeff, and welcome to another one of my videos where I take a look at all the new comic books coming out on either April 27th or 28th, 2021, and I ask myself the question, what one new comic book would I buy this week if I could buy just one book? Now this week is a really interesting week for comic books. There are a lot of great books that are coming out this week. It was really difficult for me to boil this down to just 6 that I wanted to mention in this video, which is why I cheated a little bit. But we'll get more into that in a little bit. I also want to add that in addition to this week being an exciting week for comic books for me, it's also a really frustrating and annoying week for comic books for me. And I will also get more into that later in this video. Let's start off though by taking a look back 2 weeks to my pick from 2 weeks ago, which was Spider-Man: Spider's Shadow. And the question is, was it a worthy pick for me as my just one book pick of the week? And the answer is yeah, it was. I really liked it a lot. When I was a kid, what if books were the first type of comic books that I ever collected? Since I didn't know what was going on in these ongoing stories, I picked up these one-shots that told stories that were based off of stories that I weren't familiar with, but were telling a whole new story based off of, like I said, stories that I was unfamiliar with. And I really loved them. I always thought that they were so interesting. I thought they told some of the most interesting stories because they weren't confined or restricted by any kind of, oh, well, we need to keep telling stories about these characters, so you can't do anything too drastic. In a what-if story, you could do something so drastic to a character because it was a one-shot and then it was done. Well, the what-ifs are back, but now, instead of being individual single stories in individual comic books, they are now mini-series, and that's what this story is doing. It's a 4-part series, I believe 4 parts, that tells a what-if tale of what if Peter Parker had become Venom, if he had kept the symbiote suit. But more important than it just being a cool story and me liking what-ifs, Chip Zdarsky, man, did a really good job with it. He had the evolution of Peter's character happen really naturally and in a way that made sense to me, and I understood why things happened the way they did and why Peter reacted the way he did and why it's leading to him embracing his darker side. It was really good. I'm really looking forward to picking up the rest of it. I hope that if you had the chance to read it, you enjoyed it as well, and if you didn't have the chance to read it, I would find it and pick it up because I think it's really, really good. Okay, let's move forward now by taking a look at my cover pick for this week. I have no honorable mentions, I just have a pick. And my pick this week is Batman Black and White number 5 with cover art by Jenny Frison. Yes, I think I mentioned it was last week with the Catwoman that whenever Jenny Frison does a cover, she's at least going to end up being an honorable mention in this section of these videos. But this week, she's actually going to be the winner of my cover pick of the week. It's just really good. Batman looks like what I think Batman should look like. I like Batman when he doesn't look like he's wearing armor, where he looks like he's just wearing cloth and his buffness is just what he is. And here he looks fantastic here. Him, crouched on top of this lion, looks so powerful, and the bats and Gotham in the background. It's just working for me. I like the image. I think it's really well done. And there were some other books, some covers that I'm going to get into a little bit later that I was going to mention that was in contention. I'll point those out in a little bit. But right now, this was my choice, and I think it's really, really good, and it is absolutely my cover pick for this week. Okay, let's move forward and take a look at the 6 books that I want to highlight this week that are coming out. one of which will end up being my just one book pick. These books are presented in no particular order at all. The first one I want to point out to you is Crossover number 6 from Image Comics and, of course, my man, Donny Cates. The description's really short. It reads, Kids Love Chains, Part 6. The dome has been shattered, the world is burning, everything has come undone. Do not miss the shocking conclusion to the blockbuster final chapter of Kids Love Chains. Now, it's a little bit unclear to me if this is the end of Crossover forever, or if it's just the end of this story arc. That description, it says it's the end of it's the final chapter of Kids Love Chains, not the final chapter of Crossover. So there might be another crossover story in the future, but for right now, it is done. And I've enjoyed Crossover. I really like Donny Cates. Has Crossover been like the most amazing story ever? No. I'm actually just thinking to myself, if I had to compare it as a limited series 1-to-1 against another Donny Cates work, King in Black, which one do I think is better? King in Black or Crossover? I would actually give the award for the better series to King in Black. But that doesn't mean that Crossover isn't still really good. I've really enjoyed it. I think it's been imaginative and interesting, and I am invested, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this, final chapter of Kids Love Chains ends up wrapping itself up, and also how it potentially tees up a future for the crossover title. So we'll see. The next book I want to mention to you is The Department of Truth, number 8. Here's the description. New story arc. Cole Turner thought he joined the right side of the war for the truth, but now that he's learning more about Lee Harvey Oswald's tenure leading the department, he's not so sure. The answers Cole seeks are hidden behind a pair of unsolvable riddles. Who is the fictional woman, and what does she want from him? The second arc of the smash hit The Department of Truth begins here. All right, confession time. I'm pretty sure that every time The Department of Truth comes out, it's going to be one of my top 6 in this video. I just think it's going to happen. And this could have been my pick for the week. Absolutely. In a different universe, it absolutely would have been my pick. The Department of Truth has been so good. I enjoy it so much. And this is a brand new story arc, even though it's essentially just a continuation of the first 5 issues. It's a new arc, they're calling it. So it's going to be really interesting. It's just such a good story, and it's so well told by James Tynion IV. And let me tell you something. These covers, I mentioned when I was talking about my cover picks for this week, these B and C covers, this B one by Bill Sienkiewicz is so good. I don't usually buy multiple copies of a book. I'm getting 3 copies each of these B and C covers. This Bill Sienkiewicz cover is on fire, and this Scotty Young cover is really great as well. We're also used to seeing Scotty Young doing his baby variants for Marvel, and you can see when you look at the art style for this cover that, I see Scotty Young's art style in there, but it is not like the baby variants that we're used to seeing. But I really think it's good, and I really think it's well done. I'm really excited about these covers, in addition to really being excited about this book coming out. If you aren't already reading Department of Truth, here's my advice. Pick up issues 1-5 in trade. Pick up the trade paperback for issues 1-5 and start picking up this book here with issue number 8. It is really, really good. It's really heady, and if that turns you off, then you're not going to like it, but it's so good. I highly recommend it. The next book I want to mention to you is one I'm not collecting, but one I'm interested in. It's Miles Morales' Spider-Man, number 25. Here's the description. The Clone Saga, Miles Morales style. We finally see the full extent of what the Assessor did when he kidnapped Miles back in number 7. The oversized anniversary issue lets the clones loose in Brooklyn and messes with Miles's life even more than Peter Parker's Clone Saga messed his life up. So, some of you may be familiar with Peter Parker's Clone Saga. It was a whole thing. I don't know that it was such a high point for Peter Parker's version of Spider-Man, but it could be really cool here with Miles Morales, you know? There's some of these covers kind of hints at what could be potentially, none of the ones I'm showing, it's more of the back of that first one. That first one was a wraparound cover. But these clones seem to have different types of powers and can take different types of shapes and things like that. If you're a big fan of Miles Morales' Spider-Man, I think you're going to be stoked about this storyline. And if you're not a big fan of Miles Morales' Spider-Man, but you've been curious about the character and about picking up this book, I would do so here. It seems like a really fun, really cool, really interesting place to jump on. And that's why I went ahead and put it in my 6 picks for this week. The next book I want to mention to you is The Marvels, number 1 from Marvel Comics. Here's the description. It's a bit long. Hang there with me. All new ongoing series. Kurt Busiek is back with the biggest, wildest, most sprawling series ever to hit the Marvel Universe, telling stories that span the decades and range from cosmic adventure to intense human drama, from the street level to the cosmic, starring literally everyone from Marvel's very first heroes to the superstars of tomorrow. The first issue includes an invasion from orbit, a picnic in Prospect Park, superhero sightseeing in Manhattan, the All-Winner Squad in 1947, Reed Richards during his time in military intelligence, cosmic beings beyond space and time, and that's only for starters. Featuring Captain America's Spider-Man, the Punisher, the Human Torch, Storm, the Black Cat, the Golden Age Vision, Arrow, Iron Man, and Thor, and introducing 2 brand new characters, all beautifully drawn by Yildiray Cinar, in the opening act of a thriller that'll take us across the Marvel Universe and beyond. Plus, who or what is Kashum? It all starts here, and it goes everywhere. This was a late choice for me. I was having a difficult time narrowing this week's choices down to 6. And this is one that wasn't on my radar immediately. And as I was doing research for this video and I saw this one, I thought, okay, I have to mention this one. They did a very good job in this maybe slightly too long description, but it still worked, getting me interested. It seems like this is jam-packed with, you know, all the best things from the Marvel Universe. Then you throw in things like, you know, that there's going to be new characters in here as well. 2 brand new characters, it says specifically. Now you've got my spec button going. I mean, so many comic book collectors these days are big fans of Marvel. And thanks to the MCU, they're not just fans of 1 or 2 characters from Marvel, they're fans of the Marvel Universe. And this looks like it's going to be an ongoing series that is going to present you the Marvel Universe as a whole. Not just Avengers, not just any one character, everybody and everything. Could it be too much? Could it be overload? Could it be, you know, too oversaturated by too many different things going on? Possibly. But if it's done really well, this could be amazing. And with the 2 new characters, there's some spec potential in there. So this book, and, you know, you got an Alex Ross cover, of course. Marvel's no dummy. This book seems to have a lot of interesting things going for it, and I wanted to make sure it was on your radar. The next book I want to mention to you is Robin, number 1 from DC Comics. Here's the description. After learning of the Deadly League of Lazarus tournament, Damian Wayne has a new mission, winning the tournament and prove he is the greatest fighter in the DC universe. But first, he must find the secret island where it's all going down. This brand new solo Robin series will force Damian Wayne to find his own path away from both sides of his family. New mysteries, new supporting cast, first appearances of new characters, and lots of fights. So, I don't know much about Damian Wayne as a character. But what little I do know about him, I find intriguing. There are some people that know more about Damian Wayne, who I've talked to, who says he gets tiresome quickly. And that may be true. But for where I am at this point in my understanding and exposure to the character, he seems interesting to me. I like how he has to walk the line between his father, Bruce Wayne, Batman, and his mother, Talia al Ghul. Did I pronounce that correctly? I think I did. So who's, she's got some shady business going on, and Batman is like a superhero, And Damian is kind of the meld of that. He wants to do good, but does he always know the best way to go about that? With the highest level of morality. So the fact that he kind of walks the line there between his two parents, I find a really interesting character trait. But then you tell me that he's going to be in this tournament. I'm like, okay, let's put him through his paces. Let's see him in a fight. Let's see how that goes. I want to check it out. I want to see how awesome he is in a fight up against what I am hoping will be other amazing fighters. And then, once again, you push my spec button, and you tell me that there are going to be a new supporting cast, first appearances of new characters. Now you're like, okay, now I'm especially interested. So I'm going to be picking up this book this week. I'm going to give it a shot. If it's really well done, and it might be because it is written by Joshua Williamson, who does a good job. So he, if he presents a great story, well told, it could be really cool and really interesting. And if it's not, maybe I just throw it into the PC for its spec potential and see if anything ever happens with it down the line. But I'm optimistic and hopeful for this book all at once. All right, let's move on to my next pick. And if you've been keeping count here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. That was my 5th thing that I mentioned. So now we're on my 6th one, which would typically be my just one book pick of the week. But I'm going to cheat a little bit with this one, and I'm going to go about it in kind of a long way, but I'm going to try to get through it as quickly as possible. Let's move right into it. The first book I want to mention to you in my cheat of my just one book pick is Berserker Number Two. Here's the description for Berserker Number Two. U.S. government doctor Diana Ahuja seems to unlock the mysterious bee's memories. Lifetimes of violence and tragedy like no one else who has ever lived that began with a fateful decision in ancient Mesopotamia. But is Diana here to help him, or is she serving a darker agenda? Berserker Number One was my pick several weeks ago. Berserker Number One was entertaining. I am going to be in for the long haul on the Berserker journey. And this is going to continue that story. I'm going to get all 12 issues. But I'm not so interested in Berserker Number Two as my pick. What I am interested in as part of my cheat here is what comes with Berserker Number Two this week. If you bought an issue of Berserker Number One, especially if you bought an issue of Berserker Number One when the foils finally came out. They came out 2 weeks late because foils take extra time to make. They put an insert in there that says, hey, if you bought a copy of, if you bought this copy of issue number 1 and you come back with your receipt or with the actual physical book and you buy Berserker Number 2, you will have a chance to get for free as a promotion from Boom Studios a copy of Something is Killing the Children, number 1, the 8th print. This sent the Something is Killing the Children group that I am in a tizzy. we were all like, what's going on? How does this work? And part of the problem was that it wasn't rolled out correctly. Boom put out this flyer for it that said it was going to happen on this specific date, but then they pushed back the dates of all issues of Berserker 2 weeks because foils take extra time to make. And they were like, we don't want to put them out 2 weeks later. We want them all to come out at the same time, so we're going to push everything back 2 weeks to accommodate that. So the date that they put on for this promotion of Something is Killing the Children #1, 8th print, they're like, ignore that, get rid of those. It's coming out with Berserker Number Two, and it's part of a promotion for buying Berserker 1 and Berserker 2. And then they're like, it's going to be one copy of the 8th print for every 3 copies of Berserker Number 2 that you buy. And then they changed that. And they said, okay, it's going to be one copy of the 8th print for every 2 copies of Berserker Number 2 that you buy. So if they buy 20 copies of Berserker 2, they're supposed to get 10 copies of the 8th print of Something is Killing the Children. Great, that was really interesting. As a big Something is Killing the Children fan, I was super interested. I was like, yes, I went to my local comic shop and I told them right away, I want that, I want this, I want it so badly. Please tell me what I need to do in order to get as many copies of this as I possibly can. And I secured myself copies of this. Now this takes me to something that I mentioned at the beginning of this video, which is there are some things about the comic books this week that really trigger me, and this is one of them. This book is now going for about, at least in recent sales, it's gone for as little as $24.99, including the shipping. It's gone for as much in recent sales as like $50. Including shipping. So this book that's being given out by Boom as a promotion is going for a lot of money. The cheapest that you can buy it for on eBay right now is $32.95. That's including shipping. For a book that is a promotion that was meant to be free from Boom Studios. What comic book retailer is going to give those away? If I was a comic book retailer, I'd be so tempted just to sit on every single copy of this, to sell them on eBay and tell all my customers, I'm so sorry, I didn't get any copies of it, or I didn't get enough, I already handed them out to everybody. You only have a 50% chance if you follow all of Boom's rules to get it in the first place, because once again, there's only one copy of the 8th print for every 2 copies of Berserker 2. So everybody that qualifies isn't going to get one. And that is what's driving up the price of this. Everybody is concerned that they're not going to get the one that they want, and it's driving up the value, which is just going to make comic book shops probably hold them back and squirrel them away a little bit more, which is going to make the supply even less and the demand even higher and the prices even go up even more. It's such a... Boom meant well. Boom was trying to do this promotion. Boom's trying to get copies of Something is Killing the Children #1 in people's hands because it's a very popular title. It's very good. And they think if people pick it up and read it, they're going to be interested in buying. All the people that bought Berserker, they're going to be interested in picking up future copies of Something is Killing the Children. They're also going to be interested in maybe picking up back issues in trade. And they're going to say, wow, this Boom is really great between Berserker and Something is Killing the Children. I want to buy all things Boom. It was great promotion. But the secondary market is just turning it into this monster. And there's no way you could have gotten around it, but it's so unfortunate. There's going to be a feeding frenzy for this book when the time comes. And so it's a tricky situation. But even this book is not my pick for this week. And I hate my pick for this week. I hate that I had to pick what I'm about to tell you for my pick this week. But of all the books that are coming out, it would be irresponsible of me for me to say, well, that this isn't my pick for the week. Here's my pick for this week. My just one book pick for this week is Berserker #1, the 3rd print. Now, I, in general, am not a big fan of later prints. I'm especially not a fan of how later prints increase in value so significantly because there are fewer of them. There are supposed to be fewer of them. They are late prints. There's not supposed to be as many of them as there was of the first print. But the first print is the first print, and that's why it's supposed to have its value. But these later prints, in general, in the comic book community right now, can potentially see a lot of gains. For example, Something is Killing the Children, the 6th print, is more valuable than the first print. It's just bonkers to me. But this 3rd print, okay, here's a little story. Berserker Number One came out. It's like the biggest selling comic book in 30 years. They put out a 2nd print. Boom had to place their order for how many 2nd prints they were going to order in advance of getting all the final orders from comic shops. And they're like, man, what number should we order? I don't know. Let's throw out a crazy number. And they threw out X number. Well, it turned out that X number was actually, it should have been X times 3. They were way too low in their ordering for the 2nd print. So comic shops got about 1/3 of the books that they had ordered, and the value of that book shot up. It's like $60 or $75 right now. And because the demand for it was higher than the supply. You see how these economics work? Well, now with this 3rd print, Boom just did an allocation. They're just like, we are doing 10,000 of these. That is it. That's all it's going to be. You can order, I don't know how they did it with the local comic shops, if they let you order as many as you wanted, and then they're going to be like, well, you're going to get the portion of it that we have to give to you. But they only allocated it to 10,000 copies. And because they kept that print number so low, and because the demand for these types of books are so high, the value of this book is gone through the roof. Recent sales for this book on the low end are $148 for a 3rd print that hasn't come out yet. It goes, and there are multiple sales that go above $200 for this book. Recent sales. The lowest, the cheapest that you can currently get this book for on eBay is $130 just about here. $124.99 plus $4.99 shipping, being just under $130. That's the cheapest you can find this book for in a buy it now fashion on eBay right now. It's because the demand, everybody's like, oh, there's only 10,000? Gimme, which is driving the sale price so high. And that's the only reason it's my just one book pick for this week. If you somehow go to your local comic book shop and you had this pre-ordered because you didn't care. Like the Something is Killing the Children number 1 8th print, I wanted so badly. I didn't care if it was going to be worth $4. I didn't care if it was going to be worth $0. I wanted it. I wanted multiple copies of it for my collection because I'm a big fan of the book. If you wanted a copy of the 3rd print of Berserker because you just love Keanu or you love Boom or you love Berserker for whatever reason, and you were hoping to get this for cover price, if your comic shop sells this to you for cover price, do not, while you're there, buy like 2 or 3 other things. Give your comic shop some additional business because that is an amazing comic shop owner right there. They basically just said, here's something that I could get over $100 for easy that I'm going to sell to you for $4 or $5 or whatever, $5 I think it is. That's so impressive for any comic book shop that's doing that with the 10,000 copies that are going to be out there. I would not blame for a second, once again, between this 8th print of Something is Killing the Children and between this 3rd print of Berserker, if comic shops just squirreled them away and kept them and said, I'm going to sell these at full secondary market value down the road, because we're talking about the potential of a comic shop getting hundreds of dollars more in profit. And for some of these smaller comic shops, especially who have razor thin profit margins, hundreds of dollars can make or break them in any given week or month. So this must be very difficult for them to do the right thing. The right thing is to hand out those 8th prints of Something is Killing the Children for free. The right thing is to hand out this 3rd print for cover price of $5. We'll see how often that happens. I know it's happening already a little bit with the 8th print of Something is Killing Children, but I can't wait to hear stories about people going to their shop and saying, I had Berserker 3rd print on my pull, my comic shop got it, and they sold it to me for cover price, or even less if you have some kind of discount deal with your comic shop. Man, if you could tell, I am fired up today about this topic. I hope it didn't make this video too long. I'm going to just wrap it up by saying yes, just because it's so valuable, just because it's a comic book that you should, if the comic book shop is, I don't know, doing the right thing, which I put in quotation marks because I'm going to give comic shops a lot of leeway on this one. If you're able to get a $5 book that's worth at least $130 just about here on eBay, wow, you're doing really well. So that's why I am making Berserker Number One, the third print, my just one book pick for this week. All right, I'm all worked up now, so let's get out of here. If you appreciate my content and my opinions on things, I invite you to hit the like button and show that you appreciate that. If you hate me and you think I'm a dummy and you don't like what I'm saying at all, hit the dislike button. That's fine. Go ahead. I would just say if you hit the dislike button, put down in the comments why you hit the dislike button. I'd like to get that feedback. In general, if you have other thoughts on this Berserker and Something is Killing the Children stuff that's going on, I'd love to hear your thoughts about all of that down in the comments as well. If you haven't already subscribed, here's another chance for you to do so by hitting the subscribe guy right here. And then, of course, make sure you hit that notification bell because I've been putting out a lot of random videos and I don't think you'd want to miss them. Thank you all so much for taking the time to watch this video. I'll see you in the next one.